I am in East Belfast, standing in front of a giant mural that honours leading Seaman James Magennis, the only serviceman from Northern Ireland to be awarded the Victoria Cross during the Second World War. It is the 80th anniversary of his dramatic VC action in Singapore, when he and 3 fellow sailors looked likely to perish beneath the waves in a tiny 4-man submarine. The Magennis decoration has great personal significance for me. It was the very first VC that I purchased nearly 40 years ago. Little did I know then that I would go on to amass the world's largest collection of VCs, numbering over 200. James Joseph Magennis was born into a working-class Roman Catholic family from West Belfast on October the 27th, 1919. Magennis enlisted into the Royal Navy in June 1935, aged just 15, and continued to serve in several warships. When the Second World War began in 1939, he was in the rank of ordinary seaman. In 1942, Magennis began submarine training, and the following year he volunteered for special and hazardous duties, training as a diver. In 1944, Magennis registered for service in the new XE class, or midget submarines. This class of mini-submarine was just over 50 feet long and only some 5.5 feet wide. Intended for 4 people and powered by a 4-cylinder diesel engine, conditions inside were cramped. In late July 1945, only days before the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, Magennis, Lieutenant Ian Fraser, and 2 other sailors were ordered to take part in a clandestine attack on the Japanese Navy. Their task was to sink the Takao, a 10,000-ton cruiser that was moored in the Johor Straits off Singapore. To get into position to plant explosives on the ship's hull, they would have to navigate treacherous seas and then slip out again unnoticed before the explosives detonated. Fraser was in command of the mission, while Magennis was the diver who would have to attach the limpet mines to the hull of the enemy ship. The midget submarine was towed to the area by a conventional submarine, HMS Stygian, before slipping its tow at 11 p.m. on July the 30th. Ahead was a perilous 40-mile journey through wrecks, minefields, listening posts, and surface patrols. 15 hours later, Fraser slid the midget submarine unnoticed under Takao, with the enemy ship anchored in shallow waters, less than 100 yards from shore. Magennis emerged from the wet and dry compartment of the mini-submarine. He began his task of attaching limpet mines to the enemy ship, but needed to chip away at barnacles in order to attach the magnetic explosives. Despite a leak in his oxygen line, Magennis attached 6 mines to the hull before returning, exhausted and with shredded hands, to his mini-submarine. But to make matters worse, with the falling tide, the mini-submarine became wedged beneath the Japanese ship. For more than an hour, Fraser unsuccessfully tried to maneuver the craft free. With only 6 hours before the charges went off, it looked as if the submarine and her crew would be blown to pieces. Eventually, their luck changed and the midget submarine shot backwards, yet they had one more problem to overcome. When they tried to release the limpet mine carrier from outside the submarine, it would not break free, and they could not drag it along on their 40-mile journey to safety. With Magennis injured, Fraser volunteered to dive to free it, but Magennis insisted that he was the more experienced diver. Magennis slipped into the water again, clutching a large spanner, and after struggling for 7 minutes, managed to release the carrier. Once safely back in the mini-submarine, the men began their journey back at full speed to safety. Operation Struggle, as the mission was appropriately codenamed, was a success. Their charges blew a hole some 60 by 30 feet in the enemy ship's hull. The two sailors were awarded the VC on November the 13th, 1945, shortly after the war ended. Magennis's citation concluded that he had displayed very great courage and devotion to duty and complete disregard for his own safety. However, Magennis did not cope well with the fame that his VC brought, and he became too fond of yet another celebratory drink. Impoverished, he sold his VC to a Belfast dealer for £75. Magennis died from lung cancer while living in Halifax on February the 12th, 1986, aged 66.
A memorial was erected in the grounds of Belfast City Hall to further honour leading Seaman Magennis. When his gallantry and service medals came up for sale in 1986, I was able to fulfill a long ambition to purchase my first VC, Britain and the Commonwealth's Premier Medal for gallantry in the face of the enemy. In fact, 2 years later, I was able to acquire Lieutenant Fraser's VC as well, thereby reuniting the two decorations for the first time.